KiwiSaver is a classic one. Everyone wants to talk about KiwiSaver because we all have it, but people don't engage with it. It's like, oh, I've heard other people squawk about KiwiSaver. We get it. It's the stuff like, how do you talk to your partner about money,
Mm.
and in your relationship, or what's the correlation between your mental health and your money and your finances?
Let's talk about you, mate. What is it that you do? Why are we sat here? Tell us about your life. What's going on?
What do I do, man, on a daily basis? So I'm a financial advisor, I guess, by trade. I'm one of the founders of an advisory firm called the Money Men, which is my business partner Josh and I. I mean, I guess it's quite important probably to say we're a very small part of that business actually. But yeah, I mean, look, I did my time in traditional finance, suit and tie, kind of, the stereotypical world of finance, numbers and slick haircuts and all the rest of it. And I was actually lucky enough to meet Josh there, my business partner at the firm we worked at prior to starting this business, and we both kind of aligned in terms of values and decided let's we kind of aren't heading the same direction as traditional finance. Let's do things a little bit differently. There's a huge gap for just good financial education, like financial literacy. I mean, you know that. So why don't we? I mean, I don't know. I don't know if you agree with this, but everyone we talk to in finance, especially when you're young, relatively young, it's all about talks of slices of the pie. And if you do your time and being in a big traditional firm, the goal is, or you're taught that the goal should be becoming a partner and getting a seat at the table and all that. And here's our big pie, and you get your slither. And I just got bloody sick of hearing all this pie chat. Like I was taught to want a piece of the pie, and I bought in. Don't get me wrong. It's like, yeah, I do want a piece of that pie. And realized just how bloody ridiculous it was. So I thought, yeah, let's just go and design something that's driven by our values rather than talking about pies.
Yeah. All right. Pies. What was that structure? Is it like, was it funds under management, or like, was it like equity in the firm, or what was the pie?
Yeah, it was equity in the firm, shareholding. So you do your time, you tick your boxes, you impress the right old boys, we'll call them, and you get the invite to the big round table where you get to make decisions and all the rest of it. And from the outside, it looks like that, the golden gates, you get through there and life's good. But the more experience you get in the commercial world and the conversations you have with very intelligent people, you realize it's just it's the floodgates, not the golden gates. So, shareholding in the business.
Oh yeah, the old dangling the carrots. One day if you apply yourself, I need to focus more on carrots because I sit down too much and eat too much. So you said you're a small part of this business. Was that suggesting it's big, or are you spinning a few plates?
No, I'm suggesting our team is, are the driving force. We made a decision early on that finding the right people and only bringing on people that align in our values and the whole purpose of our business was the big non-negotiable. So what we found, and I'm not going to toot my own horn here, but a huge lesson. I mean, you heard the quote, we don't hire smart people to tell them what to do.
Mm.
That always
Jobs.
stuck with me. Steve Jobs. That always stuck with me. And I don't know if this is me and young and egotistical back in, the traditional firm days and thinking I knew better, potentially a portion. But it always really wound me up that any form of innovation and, a thought of pioneership was shunned because it was outside the norm, outside the box. Just do it the way we've always done it. And that always really got to me. So we made the decision when we hire people, that's not what we do. And it's paid dividends. We've got an incredible team. and they make great decisions. They add solutions to our day-to-day processes, and most importantly, huge value to our clients. So that's what I meant by I'm a small part.
Gotcha. Well, that's a good thing. I mean, I'm sure there's stress and concern, but I mean, a lot of technicians at SFL or business owners is that they try to be everything, and that they try and have control and influence, and they don't really scale as a result.
Yep.
Because they're always limited by their ability. And I think one of the most powerful things as a leader is the ability to decentralize, is to sure you have the mission, you have the values, that's the framework, but then however they deliver that mission is purely up to them. And their
I
ability to
agree.
navigate that uncertainty is one of the most powerful things that you can get.
Yep,
Because
it
I
is.
don't have an oracle.
It's a wild ride, absolutely. If anyone in finance had a crystal ball, they'd be a very popular person. But we don't, do we?
No, but speaking of crystal balls, what do you think is going to happen in the market now? I'm just kidding. I was going to ask you. I was going to ask you about like scaling your sort of business, because traditionally the financial advising sort of structure is you have a decent income, but it's quite hard to scale, especially in the investment planning space. Maybe insurance is a bit easier.
Yep.
But yeah, how are you finding that, or what's your solution to that?
How are we finding it? It's definitely got its challenges. I think everyone, I mean, it's safe to assume, but can't confirm it. Yeah, so, I mean, how are we handling it? Our big focus leaving the old firm and starting this one was we would be a volume-based business. We wanted to take financial advice to everyday people, and I don't know if you agree, but financial advice and financial advisors, an extension, have had that taboo kind of, been painted by the same brush. And like I said, it's the suit and tie, the Lamborghini, the whatever it is, and traditionally speaking, or historically, I guess you'd say, financial advisors have been for the wealthy, or at least that's the perception. There is a degree of truth to that too, but we decided, well, we asked ourselves, why is that the case? Does it need to be the case? The answer was no. We wanted to take it to everyday mums and dads, because everyone has a need for financial advice to some capacity. So, an extension that, because traditionally the way it works is, if we look at it from an investment planning point of view or an investment management point of view, the larger the sum, the more you make. From our basic clientele, they aren't those high net worth people. So it was a volume game. So you could call that lead generation, I guess. We had the volume coming through. We just needed the advisors, good advisors, to be able to plug in and do the work. And we found them. So from a scale perspective, it's just I'm trying not to overcomplicate this. I always go on a rant because all my ideas come out at once, which is the I guess the downside of being a numbers brain, not a literate. So it's just keeping the business coming in, keeping that volume, making sure we're delivering our message, through a microphone rather than door to door, so to speak, and then making sure the advisors are all upskilling at the same time and delivering good value. And then, like any business, if you do a good job, we believe if you do a good job, your business will grow organically to some capacity. Although that might be very conceptual, we've kind of proved ourselves right in the short term anyway, in the last 24 months. Right now it's actually an interesting question considering the landscape at the moment, or the climate, or whatever you want to call it. Because if you asked me that question 12 months ago, probably would have had a different answer. It was foot to the floor and let's get it done. And now it's kind of there's a certain element of let's sit on our hands, and I hate the word pivot because it's been absolutely murdered over the last 24 months. But yeah, we did. We slightly changed, and we thought, hey, let's just pull back the scale a little bit here. really, really focus on the systems and processes and make sure every advisor who is, working their butt off is finding as many efficiencies in their day as possible.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's always a balance. It's like when there's a famine or a fear or a recession, people sort of tighten up, and that's when some of the best businesses were ever made is during a recession. But it's a balance between optimistically eating everything with no food stores,
Yeah.
and then just getting cooked over winter. So is that sort of, or is it more just like, hey, we have got this leakage here, let's maximize what we've got, or what did you mean by?
Yeah, well, it was kind of like it was your first annotation is probably quite a good one for what I was trying to say. What I was trying to deliver was, the food's coming in. We're not running out. Everybody eat. Just go, 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 and don't stop. And you eat and you move on to you have your entree, then you have dinner, then you have dessert, then you have your supper, then you have your midnight meal. All of a sudden you're at breakfast again, and it's just not stopping. Versus let's take a step back and make sure everything we're doing is as effective as possible. Because what happens if you look at, let's use we use the word an interaction. If you can do it many different ways, right? If I was dealing with you as an example, you can be very excited and go into it hot and passionate and know you're going to do a good job, but you might spend 4 hours doing a job you can really do in an hour and a half. It's important to keep that passion, don't get me wrong, but if we can fit two of you into that same 4 hours and have an hour to upskill or whatever it is, then that's a much better use of time. So it was just kind of not getting rid of the excitement, but putting a harness on it. Which okay. I based on who I talk to. I'm a big believer in having a mentor and not getting too big for your own shoes. And most of the people I talk to and I look up to, and this is within our own sector and outside of our sector too, it's always the same. It's they always have the same kind of lesson. It's like you can work as hard as you like, but if you don't have good systems and good processes, it doesn't mean you're going to get better results.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a salesman at heart. I've done commissionary selling most of my life, and then the sales training component around the efficiency of each lead. Like I was quite a nervous, awkward fucker. Still am, but I've learned how to communicate slightly better. And I would just do volume because we'd just stop people on the street, 40 new people a day, and just sell. And I knew nothing, and I just kept going. But from a business standpoint, it just, it's a leaky boat. Sure, if you've got, very effective marketing tools, very effective promotional tools, you can keep the boat going for a period of time. But eventually, everything increases. The little market share that you had, the little competitive advantage just closes up, and then you're stuck with your leaky boat in the middle of the ocean.
Yep.
So I hear you on that.
It's another great annotation.
Yeah, well, I've read. Have you heard of ClickFunnels and .com Secrets by Russell Brunson?
I have.
Yeah. Well, I realize I'm good at driving traffic, but shit at conversion.
Right.
And he was talking about creating a character, an attractive character that's polarizing and speaks in stories. So I'm trying it out. I only read it today.
You're nailing it.
Yeah, it's gone well. I'm enjoying it. So, okay, so how are you like? Because the biggest challenge for financial advisors is client acquisition and staff. Like, what do you think is differentiating you guys? Like, I mean, I feel like I'm going to leech value by asking that question. So we'll talk about financial advice at some point. But like, what are you guys doing that's leading to the opportunities?
I mean, there's a few ways to answer that, I guess, isn't there? So I'll try two ways. The first one is a little bit soft and quite high level, but it is really just living and breathing the purpose. Like our slogan, our tagline, whatever you want to call it, is just helping Kiwis be better with money. And we wake up and that is our ambition every single day. It's not go out there and sell as many products as you can. It's It really is just trying to help people understand their position, figuring out what they want to achieve in their life, and reverse engineering it so they get that out of life. And that's, like I said, organically has helped us scale to a certain point, because all of our content, all of our material, all of our advice delivery is based on that very thing. And that goes a long way. People engage with that. We're very, very careful not to, sell. That's a broad term, isn't it? But because there is a certain, there is a degree of selling in our role, and would be lying if I said not. It is still a business, and we still need to make a living. But look, I mean, there's plenty of business out there, and finance is a living, breathing beast, and it shouldn't have to be. The more you sell, the better off you'll be, because it's just one of those things. You do a good job for people, and it all comes back. And I know that's not is it a cliche? Probably. Might not call it a cliche, but you know what I'm saying. We've all heard it before. Easier said than done might be a better term for it, but it's actually not that hard. You just be honest with people, transparent, understand what they want, give that to them instead of telling them they need something else. That's, I think, something that's been an issue historically, and it is changing quickly, and you'll probably agree to that with all the new legislation, all the rest of it. But the financial sector has been really, really good at giving people what they want to give people, not what people ask for. If someone comes in and asks for soup, you sell them a car.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. No, I mean, it's a good distinction. Like, the best marketing is a great product or service, but it's like, I hear you on that. People will come in and I'll tell them, hey, you don't need me. Like, this is a waste of time. Should we pay you for your time? Nah. The reality is like, you're, at least in our side of things, and I should unpack your product offering a bit more. But we're not selling a transaction. It's not a sale. It's a relationship. And a relationship's built on trust and honesty. And if you're not doing that from the get-go, then you might be able to lie and get them over the line and sell them that car when they've got the cold and they need some soup. But eventually, that's not going to be a healthy relationship at some point. So
yeah, absolutely.
What is it that you guys offer? Like, what are you doing? The full suite: mortgage, insurance, investment, KiwiSaver?
Yeah, pretty broad. So insurance, mortgage, KiwiSaver, investment, and money management, or money management. So, and that's broad in itself. That's like, do you need your first budget? Have you been living paycheck to paycheck for the last decade and you finally want to get on top of it? Or is it like you've got a whole bunch of investments because you knew it was good to invest, but you never really knew what you're doing? So it's figuring out what does the next stage of life look like? Mapping.
I mean, like every young advisor you come across, that's their dream, is to service all markets. I mean, it's a challenging business model because you're not niching. You're trying to be all things to all people, but then you don't have to educate the market. Because, no one knows what the fuck I do. And even when they meet me, they're like, even I don't know what I do. But, like, the reality is like, people sort of associate you to the insurance guy, the mortgage person. They don't actually know what financial advice is. So if you provide everything. But, that's a compliance nightmare, though. How did you work that
out? So I'll be real transparent here, because it was a compliance nightmare. We hired somebody who was just compliance, and that was their full-time role for a long time. It was getting across all, service offerings, making sure everything's compliant, and we, got a third-party compliance consultant as well for another perspective, because you got to be airtight. But yeah, it was a bit of a roller coaster, and man, compliance, man. I mean, look. I'll be honest here. I work in insurance. Well, we have obviously our insurance service offering, and there's, even being on this side of the desk, you cannot get around the fact that insurance is boring. And we talk about it all the time, but what I thought was arguably one of the most boring subjects in the world um, was quickly thrown out the window when we got to compliance, because holy hell, it is hard to stay engaged, but so, so important.
Dude, that I mean, the average retail person, they're coming in, they're like, "Oh, you're charging this and that," and they're like, well, "What the hell?" Like, but then the back end and all the effort that goes into it. But I think there's an important thing. Have you worked out a way to sell insurance? Because no one wakes up like, "Oh, I want some insurance." And I was thinking, like, if I had an insurance company, how would I market it? And I was like, well, maybe I could interview people about their traumatic lives and stories, and then clip that and then share it around. I had no idea, brother. I was like, how do you sell that? You know what I mean?
Yeah, so we talk about this all the time. It's incredibly difficult to market insurance. I would go as far as suggesting we don't sell insurance, and the reason, I guess, I'll take it back a step and just touch on your point about being, the one-stop shop. I think is that what we said, or the full
Yeah.
spectrum, and not the niche market. And yeah, it is full on, and it's a jack of all trades situation, but not really. Like, I'm not the advisor on all service offerings, and nobody in my team is. We have specialists in each area, and we make sure our systems and processes allow the internal communication to be crisp and airtight and seamless, so that the consumer or the client doesn't feel that pain, because there's nothing worse than that. I mean, going back to car sales, I worked in the automotive industry, and the communication between the service sector or the service shop and the sales team was always one of the biggest anomalies to me. Like, how is that such a problem? But the only person who really lost out was the buyer, the client. So definitely not allowing that to happen. So yeah, what happens is when our clients come in, we always start with what they want to achieve, and realistically, everyone has some type of need for insurance. It's outlining that need. If people want to engage with it, great. If they don't, we're not going to tell them they have to. And insurance is one of those things, like you say. So we don't sell it. It's just one of those things. We all have a plate. This is how I think about it. We have a plate of financial risk in front of us. We decide what we want to eat, and we decide what we just want to pay someone else to eat. And everything, as long as you understand the whole picture, it's completely up to you what your risk appetite is, as long as you understand it. And that's our job, right? It's just that educational piece.
And like, I share a similar narrative to you around insurance, but all financial advice. I find it boring. I like people. I like people, but that it's really not complicated. The thing I think our industry's done a poor job of is making it inaccessible. Like, either it appears too expensive or it's too complicated. But essentially, an advisor is just a product recommender. That part's the easy part, but then the component where you add the value is where you tailor it to achieve the objectives they want in life. And I believe a person could do all of it, but the challenge is with the model you just described. Where does the relationship lie? Like, what is it? The brand itself. They're like, oh my god, I get everything in one shop. Or like, how do you manage that? And they're like, oh, I'm going to call you about insurance, and I'm going to call you about your investment, and then, oh, you're a mortgage. You probably shouldn't have an investment if you got a mortgage, but you're KiwiSaver. You know what I mean?
Yep. Yeah. So great question. I would suggest the easiest answer would be, the relationship is with the business and the brand. But reality is, if I look at 4 out of 5 clients won't have all services, and they'll have their chosen one that they're a lot more engaged with. KiwiSaver is a classic example. KiwiSaver, most people in the country have KiwiSaver, even those who are the late adopters who had a problem with the early days. Probably bad timing considering this morning's announcement, isn't it? But so the relationship will kind of lie with our KiwiSaver team more so than any other team, and there'll be those who come in for a mortgage only, as an example, or that might turn into insurance as well. But reality is, the mortgage team will hold that relationship. And then, across the other side of it is the investment, someone who's got their property and freehold and all the rest of it, and everything's sorted, but they're interested in investing, so that'll sit with our investment team.
Do you do with like similar to what's her name, Hannah McQueen, Enable Me? Do you do the property piece where you're like, hey, you better pay off your mortgage quicker, and you meet every week, and they pay you $5,000 a year to keep them accountable?
No, so we don't do that. It's a hell of a model. But yeah, so no, we don't do that big piece. And I mean, look, there's huge value in that accountability, really, isn't it? Because, like you say, it's actually not complicated what you need to do. Everyone already has some idea of what they need to do. Spend less, make more, whatever. That's in its simplest form. But it's the discipline and the accountability that's the difference a lot of the time. But no, we don't. Unless if someone specifically asks for it, we might be able to tailor something. But that's not our thing.
Fair enough. One of the few people I've met that actually had this model. Like, you talk about mentors. I use my competitors as mentors, and we meet up and tear each other apart and say, "Why are you doing this?"
That's fantastic.
And one of them's Andrew Malcolm from Mortgage HQ, and he's just branched out to Wealth HQ where they do insurance as well.
So I know those guys. Yep.
yeah. I like Andrew. So it was a challenging model. They focused on mortgages and then they're branching out to insurance. But here's you. How old's the business that you got?
And the current entity is just over 2 years old.
Yeah, it's fucked. You know what I mean? You're going all in. I mean, you got this in-house consultant and then third-party compliance, and then you're doing all the products at once. Are you a trust fund baby? Like, how did you get through this?
So, no, certainly not. I mean, look, we bootstrapped it. And it's, I guess, if you want to put a term on it, but certainly wasn't a trust fund baby. I didn't come up with money. I left school reasonably early. I wasn't a school guy. Certainly wasn't for me. I liked to play with shit when I was coming through that kind of those teenage years. But yes, I actually, like I said, worked in automotive in all forms, down in the workshop, and then up into sales. And interestingly enough, that conversation I was having on the that point I made on the lack of communication or the fallout between service and sales is kind of where I figured out that I needed to do something different. Anyway, I built a business. I sold that earlier than I thought I would. And then I got into the finance sector, and I got the question from my financial advisor at the time. I rang him and said, I've got to change some stuff because I've sold this, and that's how it goes. And he said, what are you going to do now? And I said, no idea. Come up with the next big golden nugget, I hope. He said, come work here, and we'll teach you the ropes and all the rest of it. That was a long time ago now. But I thought, my decision-making process was pretty quick on that one, actually. It was, I don't really have anything lined up. I know bugger all about the financial world. So worst case scenario, I leave in 24 months with a bit of education. But then I actually fell in love with the sector. It was a lot of fun. Like you say, you meet some real cool people on both sides of the desk. And then it was all steam ahead. So my business partner Josh and I just bootstrapped the whole thing. Just went, like you say, went all in.
You're still here, so 2-year mark is well done.
Yeah.
Well, and you got staff, so things are happening, brother.
It's progress.
Yeah, I'm sure you have a meltdown every other day, but that's you're a fireman. It's business.
That's the 14-hour days get a little bit old, but that's all right.
Yeah. No, I feel you on that. I haven't gone on the business round, but I like to treat it like I am. I've just started a marketing company 2 weeks ago, actually, so we'll see what happens there.
Cool.
I just realized that it's a very hard business to scale. I still have a duty to my clients, so I'll make sure they're looked after. But what I thought I'd be a better of services is helping other advisors get clients and helping with the people and strategy component, as opposed to being the advisor. So at the moment, what I'm doing is helping professional services with their marketing. So that helps me learn and do it better as well. And then hopefully that can help feed the financial advising arm once I'm ready to grow that some more.
Yeah, cool.
Um, so I'll meet you on the 14-hour days. I only do 12, 6 days a week. So maybe that's what I'll need to step up to more.
Oh, I
So
don't recommend it, mate. Stick to 12.
yeah, if I'm not working, I'm bored. You know what I mean? I have an amazing life. I don't get why people just come in, do a job they hate to impress a dickhead that they don't even like. But
Yeah,
anyways,
that's a great
so
question. Don't get me started. That's a big hole.
yeah. Well, speaking of dreams, mate, what's the dream? Like, it sounds like you fell into the financial advising space, but enjoyed it. Like, what's the goal? Like, national capital, they have a goal of 1 million financially secure New Zealanders. Oh, Clive is a
Um,
sweetheart.
yep, and onto it. Um, what's the dream? So this is a good little question because I've always been torn. Um, I'll be completely transparent. When I got into finance, when I first entered the realm, I was definitely sold on the dream of the sports car and the big flash life. Like that was the dream growing up. I wanted an Aston Martin and all that, and house on the beach and all the rest of it. I mean, house on the beach still go down well, um, but yeah, getting into the finance sector was actually the biggest lesson I took from it was that isn't what I want in life. So the biggest lessons I took um, were what I don't want to be, which is quite interesting. So the dream now, oh yeah, I guess part of that was to be a business owner. That was always a dream. Hence the business being built and sold, and to have a big business, be a big name. And this is all driven by testosterone fueled ego as a teenage
Toxic
boy.
masculinity, mate. Toxic
Oh, big
masculinity.
time, big time. But I'm really grateful I learned those lessons. So yeah, the dream now is actually just get this business to a point where we don't want it to get too big. Our dream is to, I mean, the conceptual line we follow is to be a household name and improving financial literacy and improving financial literacy in New Zealand. Um, and what we really like about that, because we are big data people, we like to measure. It's really important to us. So it's quite interesting that one of the biggest drivers we follow is incredibly conceptual. There's not a real there's not a real bulletproof way to measure the fact that we're a household name of financial literacy. You can probably ask someone will tell you they can do it and run a survey over 1,000 people, and that'll give you the results you need. But it's not realistic. So we're driven by that concept, and that's the goal. What does the headcount look like in that? I don't know, 20, 25, maybe 30 maximum. Um, Everyone in our business loving their job, everyone earning good money, and our clients, pulling all the value from that. So we're big believers in happy staff equal happy clients, because if we've got our team coming to work every day and absolutely fizzing to be there and to talk to someone and to do a good job, we're going to get better results than telling them they need to be here at 7 a.m. and the whole carrot versus the stick thing, I kind of don't believe in either. You can kind of see, you can there's always arguments for both sides, don't get me wrong. And it's funny, over my career, I've performed better to different, different sides over time. There was a time where I needed the stick, and there was a time where the carrot was good for me. And now I'm like, it's not enough. It's all about purpose for us. So, yeah.
Yeah, I think that's the biggest mistake I hear business owners speak about a lot is that, oh, why is my staff not as motivated as I am? But it's like, essentially, the I used to do with commissionally selling and management. I used to do the recruitment. So what we would hire on was values and vision. So instead of us trying to force them, hey, this is our vision, you should love it. We would interview them and trying to find out if our vision would support theirs.
Yeah.
And then if you've got the values as your framework, and you need a different mental mind map, you need people, like you say, that you can listen to, but then a value set that unites us and a vision that drives them. Then it's really just about maintenance. It's not really about, hey, bad, it's quack. And then, oh,
Yeah.
here's your pie. In the future, one day.
Yeah. How big do you want your piece to be? Absolutely. But yeah, you did right. And that's quite interesting because we are big. We do squeal about our purpose. Like it's the first thing you see when you walk into the office on the wall. Our value.
All right. Well, with all these distractions and rolling with the punches, what would be, the financial literacy thing? A lot of people, they want to do it and have tried to do it and suck. Even me, I added money skills and started making content, and I couldn't be bothered. And then I try to get instructors, but like trying to onboard them, they get overwhelmed at using the software. Because essentially the goal was to build a free online learning platform. You can learn about everything to do with money, whether it's business, investment, insurance. And then I'll just use the traffic and the audience that I build to drive it there. And then people can book a call in with whoever advisor it is. And I just wanted a single source of truth for advice.
Yep.
But it fell flat. Like I just creating content for me, like talking about finance because it bores the shit out of me. And then trying to get the instructors to do it. What's your plan to improve financial literacy? What's the goal?
So yeah, content's a hard one. We've always battled with content. It's incredibly important, especially with our goal. I think what I've seen anyway, historically speaking, it's starting to change now and kind of has over the last sort of 12 to 24 months, a little bit more, is the content's always so product heavy and it's so detailed. And I think that's what makes our world boring. I don't actually disagree with you because I find it interesting, but I don't find it entertaining. Um, I think that's the best way I can put it. So all the content historically has always been so financy. You get a finance guy talking about finance, and it's like shit. Even I fall asleep. Um, and then what we found was we really need to pull it back and understand our audience and just give them or help them understand what they are asking for. Like, some of our best fall, and so we have a show on the Rock. Every fortnight on Wednesdays, and we have a show on George FM other fortnight on Tuesdays, and we do some some ad hoc stuff at other stations. But some of our or highest engaged episodes have been the most conceptual. It's not actually about a product at all. KiwiSaver is a classic one. Everyone wants to talk about KiwiSaver because we all have it, but people don't engage with it. It's like, I've heard other people squawk about KiwiSaver. We get it. It's the stuff like, how do you talk to your partner about money, and in your relationship, or what's the correlation between your mental health and your money and your finances, and what's the bridge to figuring that out. And no matter who you use, that's not accurate. You can talk to anyone; they'll all give you different answers. But reality is, if you know how you're paying all your bills this week, next week, and 6 weeks' time, you are going to be happier than if you're not. The whole money doesn't equal happiness thing. I get it to a degree, but it certainly bloody helps. So it's actually just breaking down the whole mental taboo around money. I grew up in a real traditional household, middle class. I was privileged. Don't get me wrong. I went to a good school, although I hated it. I didn't really, I never went hungry. But money wasn't a subject allowed at the dinner table. It was, and I talk to my old man about it now and why. And he's a hard worker. But he just said, well, that wasn't your burden as a kid. That was mine. It was my job to be the breadwinner, and to deal with that sort of stuff, and in extension take on all the stress and all the rest of it. But I've learnt lessons. Like a classic one's a car loan from the bank when I was a teenager, and I didn't understand what I was doing. I just knew I wanted the car because my buddy got a cool car, and I was a 16-year-old boy, and I mean, I think the loan was $3,000, so you can imagine how cool the car was. But it was only about 18 months after that I asked myself, why the hell am I still paying for this $3,000 loan? And then, read my loan agreement and didn't understand what the hell I was reading. Saw a word interest, thought, the hell does that mean? Googled it, fantastic tool, Google. Figured that out and thought, oh, you bastards, that's a real bloody stinger. But my old man went through the same lesson in his teenage years, So, I mean, to be completely fair, if he did talk to me about that when I was a teenager, I probably wouldn't have listened anyway. But there's a chance I could have learnt the lesson without going through the school of hard knocks when he already had.
Yeah, I mean, you make an important point there. Like, I fall in that narrative of, you talk about the product because it's essentially I want the person to take action and be able to execute on it. I don't give a fuck if they come through. I only need 80 clients and I've got a successful business. It doesn't matter too much. But it's like the stories and the entertainment and that personal anecdote you used was engaging. And then if you talk about the principles, the underlying drivers of money, they're probably the biggest limiting component. It's not actually understanding the vehicle to use, it's the underlying drivers that are holding that back. But
yep.
How do you balance the entertainment and then they can actually do something? Or do you just like, oh, we'll do it for you? You know what I mean? I want to help the people that won't come anywhere near me. Can't imagine why. And they're going to do it themselves and they can do it well. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, we do give out just free information, like investing ebooks, which have a few providers that you can go and do things yourself. Index fund providers, classic example. Nice passive investing for the beginner, where we don't have to touch it. We don't care if the result is us getting business out of it, or if people are just improving their position. If it was the prior, I feel like we'd be hypocrites, wouldn't we? We wouldn't be living by the purpose I've said we are. Classic example is I got asked to go and talk at a road show to other advisors about client experience, and it's one of a traditional historical thing in finance. It's quite a small sector, especially in the advice sector. I got asked, it was a KiwiSaver provider, and can you come and talk to our other advisors around the country about engagement? I thought, oh, yeah, and just kind of tell them about how you get things done. I thought, oh, it's kind of a bit of the secret sauce conversation there, isn't it? It's like, we're competitors. And then I thought, well, that would actually make me a hypocrite if I didn't go and do that. So I did. I went and gave away all our secrets, and people can use them. And realistically, that means other Kiwis are getting better results, whether it's by us or not. I don't care. Advisors are invaluable. You probably agree with that. I know it's bias. You can scream at me all you like about it being biased, but it's reality. Like, I wouldn't go home and with bloody clogged pipes or whatever and plumb the house myself, because it's going to be a disaster. It's not my skill set. I wouldn't build a deck. It's not safe. I wouldn't bloody change the tires on my car. That's just not my skill set. I could if I YouTubed it as much as I like, but reality is financial advisors are there to add value to people.
Yeah, I mean, Greg uses an analogy. The guy I work with, he's you can do your own electrical work, but you just might end up as a black mess in the corner. But
exactly right.
The thing, I mean, the main thing, just from an investment standpoint, an advisor does is, one, making the invisible visible. So actually having a clear path to achieve a clear objective. But the main thing is, at some point, shit's going to hit the fan for years at a time. The market's going to crash. Could be crashing now. Don't know. And then you hold them on course, and money. What was that survey? Money and you, and they found there was
Oh
People
yeah,
with advisors saved more. They had a better return just because it was more appropriate for the situation. And it's just about that. It's like, it's quite a hard, for me, the thing is, I talk about finance only 10% of the consultation. It's like, how much money you have? Oh, here, where are the problems? Oh, you don't have insurance. Oh, when you die or you have a breakup, you guys are fucked because you got this complex estate plan that I was like, why? What's your trust going to do for you? Get that out of the way. But it's all about what do you want from life, and what's a clear path to achieve that, and how do we make sure you're protected when things do go wrong?
yeah. And it's quite interesting because most people at a base level want the same shit. What I find anyway, most Kiwis, I should say. I mean, there are the odd one who is just like, I want to make $1 billion. And reality is, we'll send them away because that's not our client. We can't help you make $1 billion. If we could, we'd probably have $1 billion. Um, but most people want the same stuff, and that's control of their time, maybe a little travel. Property is obviously quite topical. Um, shit, I mean, half of our clients just want a new ute sometimes, like life isn't that complicated. What we want out of life isn't that complicated, but the common factor is time. So it's just about actually helping people understand what they want, reverse, like I said earlier, just kind of working it backwards and saying, here's your pathway. Like, here's a few levers you need to pull over the next decade, and it's kind of leading you towards what you need or what you want anyway, what you've told us you want. So, and you're right. Half my job is being a soundboard, like you say, when times get tough. KiwiSaver through COVID or even the first 6 months of this year, classic example. What the hell is it doing? It's like, oh, that's a great question. Has your timeline changed on when you need it, or are you still 42? Um,
Yeah, I mean,
oh yeah, I am still 42. Sweet. So let's just remember the basics. And it's like, oh yep, that's a great point.
well, this
It's
thing.
just, and it's the same conversation.
Yeah, yeah. Sorry, man. I try to see myself as a great listener. I was failing there. I started thinking. You failed when you're thinking of what to say next, and I failed for 8 seconds there, and I was interrupted. Um, but there's things that truly aren't even acknowledged. Like, a client not long ago, partner's got dementia. Oh God, Ryan, what do I do? Can we afford care? I'm all alone. Most people don't have much of a support network, nor do they have someone that has the tools and understanding to navigate that, as well as like, hey, you don't have to pay me anything extra. You're already paying me through your investment.
Yep.
Or, my partner's got Parkinson's, or, they've passed away. I've lost my job, or, I think I think that's a very important thing, because at some point, advice is just a commodity. Like, you can pick the investment, we're just an overhead. So you need to expand your offering, and how you facilitate them achieving what they want from life. So what's your hedge? I mean, your hedge is you're doing everything, and the provider pays the insurance and the mortgage, and maybe some of the clients pay the thing. But are you thinking about the future, and how to justify the fee you charge, and the Financial Markets Authority? They're big on that at the moment.
They certainly are. Um, yeah, I mean, look, we think about it all the time, and I think it's getting a bit more relevant and real now. So those conversations go a little deeper, but they're only beginning to. I mean, like I said, we're 24 months old, so we've had plenty on our plate. From a hedging perspective, don't really have any answers, but our first, our first, I guess, point of attack is, yep, to try and make ourselves as indispensable as possible. We have got clients with 5 or 6 product lines with us and services, and they make one call or flick a text through, and everything's sorted. So it is just kind of making yourself that little that little extra limb of their life. So we do charge fee for service as well. Starting to get used to it a little bit more, understand the offering. Traditionally, it has been commission based or management fees, which are a little bit less confrontational, I guess you'd call that line. But yeah, so getting into that a little bit more, and understanding, and getting clients' feedback too, which is, like I said, quite early days. That's only been going on a few weeks, but um, yeah, so we're starting to think about that. Obviously, tech is a big driver in the sector at the moment. The whole DIY thing, which is incredible. I find it fascinating because if I look at my personal circles, my mates, classic example, January 2020, I would say 1 out of 10 of my closest mates, excluding myself, invested.
Mm.
Maybe two, maybe two. Now it's 8 or 9, you know. Oh, well, I should say January 2020 was 1 or 2. April 2020 was 8 or 9, because everyone got locked in their house, and there was some great marketing by some great DIY platforms, and then there was a bloody Reddit storm, and then a wave of FOMO came through, and everyone was an investor all of a sudden. But over the last 24 months since then, I guess it's important to remember investing at a low when the world just went into lockdown, and every bloody country in the world closed their doors, chucking money in and watching it grow for the next 6 months. A lot of people, even my own, good mates, are like, shit, investing is easy. Wish I did this,
Yeah.
earlier. This is going to be a dream. Yep, sweet. 24 months passed, and a few waves come through, as we know, and people understand that it's not all good times. And what do you do in the bad times? And should I have chucked my life savings into A2 milk? Um, yeah, there is an answer for that. But that's a perfect validation, like a real life validation for people. Even my mates, and I use them as an example because I've known most of them, since I was bloody 5 years old. Um, And you know what it's like. You talk to a client and you add some value and they listen. You talk to a mate with the exact same conversation and they think, shut up, because we're just too close. But after the last few waves, they've come and they've told me, shit, man, like, okay, I can't do it on my own. I've just been shooting from the hip. Is there something I should be thinking about? I'm like, yeah, wouldn't you like to know, mate?
Yeah, well, that's the challenge you face. Is you've got two generations. You got the generation that's been scorned from investing, from making a mistake, or the ones that's getting incredible returns and that laugh at yours. But I think I saw, so I've lost a few clients, maybe 5, which is okay over a few years. But there was one in particular where they called me up. It was 2020, and they're like, "Oh, it's Ryan. I think this is going to be a pandemic, this COVID thing." I was like, "Fucking really? What do you? Okay, let's say it is." I was like, "You're going to be fine. It's going to go down for a period of time. Could be years. Could be a sharp recovery. We don't know." And they wanted to crystallize the portfolio for people listening. I mean, selling the investments that they have. And I said, "No, let's just hang in. Give it at least 2 years, and if I'm wrong, I'll pay the difference. Okay, let's like just hang the fuck in there." And that was a substantial 40% return or something like that they dodged the crystallization of, as well as the upside. And then in the end, they decided to not have me as an advisor anymore, because they felt that they could do it themselves. And then they're like, "Can you justify the value that you charge?" And to take responsibility. My service, I was disappointed. It was through the cracks. It was like, we share some clients, and that's what I talk about, juggling that relationship. So I take responsibility for that. But that's the thing that people don't necessarily talk about, is that, or think about, is the advisor, if they're doing their job right, is preparing for the famine and the feast, and is trying to achieve a certain objective, and is helping you through the seas. When you hit moments like these, or they run away and close the business. I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah, yeah, there's two extremes there.
So just, yeah,
But
go
yeah,
on.
you did right. No, I was just going to say I completely agree, and that's where the value and the delivery of that value is missing, right? It's hard to explain that to people in a tangible way because, like I said, in March 2020 or April 2020 or whatever it was, when everyone had invested in something random because they'd opened Sharesies and just pressed the green button, and made money. And thought, oh shit, doesn't matter what you're doing, you just chuck money in this thing and it'll spit more out. Um, that was the mentality, and that's why I think that lesson over the last 24 months, that real life lesson of people trying to do it on their own and seeing that it's not all sunshine and rainbows, has been nice, because it gets that conversation going organically from a consumer point of view too, not just me telling people, because it's one of those things. It's that whole third party validation thing.
Yeah, and for any young advisors listening, one of the best things you can ever do is manage expectation. It's
Yeah,
what you
absolutely.
do on day one that will determine how people react in these moments. And I actually almost try to lose clients at the start. Like, hey guys, are you ready for a 3 to 4 year downturn? It could go down by 30%. And they're like, yeah. I mean, yeah. I'm like, cool. Just so you know, that's what we're doing. That's why we were saying don't invest for 3 years, because it could very well go down.
Absolutely.
So, on that note, with your financial literacy goal, is there some resources where maybe they exchange their email, or maybe they have a certain problem they want to reach out to you? They're like, oh, this bloke, he seems like he's got it worked out. So, one-stop shop for financial advice. Yeah.
So what was the question?
What resources for someone wanting to
Oh,
learn
right.
do you have, and then how do they reach you if they want your
Yep.
financial?
So I'm in the website moneymen.co.nz. There are free resources on there. You just tick the box. There's a money management document, kind of some concepts around money management and different ways to attack it. A money management tool, which is a glorified spreadsheet that we've made look pretty, which automates your monthly surplus, and that surplus is obviously the important bit. You get to play with that, or if there isn't one there, we can help you create it anyway. Or Investing 101 ebook, that's very popular. Everyone wants to learn a little bit more about investing, and the last 24 months have hurt them a little too much, so they want some strategy to follow.
Mm.
Yeah, those are the three, probably the three most popular resources we have, and they're all just free. So you can just go and request them on the website, and they'll come straight to you.
Did well there, mate. My camera died, it would seem. So anything that could go wrong did go wrong.
Oh, it's been a roller coaster today, but it's
Yeah,
been good.
yeah, I've enjoyed it, mate. Well, I'll stop it there, mate. So thanks for
Yeah,
coming on.
cool.
And if anyone wants to reach out, I'll leave you a link in the description.